Omnis terra adoret.
Psalm 1. Beatus vir qui non abiit in concilio impiorum, et in via peccatorum non stetit, et in cathedra pestilentiae non sedit. Sed in lege Domini voluntas eius, et in lege eius meditabitur die ac nocte. Et erit tamquam lignum quod plantatum est secus decursus aquarum, quod fructum suum dabit in tempore suo, et folium eius non defluet, et omnia quaecumque faciet prosperbuntur. Non sic impii, non sic, sed tamquam pulvis quem progicit ventus a facie terre. Ideo non resurgent impii in judicio, neque peccatores in concilio justorum, quoniam novit Dominus viam justorum, et iter impiorum peribit. And in English, Blessed is the man who hath not walked in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stood in the way of sinners, nor sat in the chair of pestilence. But his will is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he shall meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree which is planted near the running waters, which shall bring forth its fruit in due season. And his leaf shall not fall off, and all whatsoever he shall do shall prosper. Not so the wicked, not so, but like the dust which the wind driveth from the face of the earth. Therefore the wicked shall not rise again in judgment, nor sinners in the counsel of the just. For the Lord knoweth the way of the just, and the way of the wicked shall perish. The vocabulary words for Psalm 1. The first is cathedra. That is a chair or cushioned seat or throne. That is a first declension noun. That A ending on the end is your Q. That's first declension noun. Et in cathedra pestilentiae non sedit, nor sat in the chair of pestilence. Voluntas means will, wish, or choice, or desire. That's a third declension noun. In lege Domini voluntas eius, his will is in the law of the Lord. Tempore, time, period, age, or season. This is a third declension, and it's in the ablative, in season, for when. In tempore suo, in due season. So we use ablative to show when something is happening. Pulvis is dust or powder. It's a third declension noun. Sed tamquam pulvis quem progicit, but like the dust which the wind driveth. Concilio. Concilium is a council or meeting, a solemn assembly. This is a second declension noun, and it's in the ablative for where something is happening, place where, in the council, in concilio justorum, in the council of the just. Novit, he or she knows. This is the third conjugation verb, third person perfect. Quoniam novit Dominus, for the Lord knows. He knows. So for cathedra, a chair, throne, or cushioned seat. Here in the picture you can see an actual bishop's throne, or cathedra, in the cathedral. Now cathedral is just a church wherein is found the throne of the bishop. So every bishop will have several or even many churches in his diocese, but there's one church in the diocese that is the cathedral, and that's wherever the bishop's throne or seat is, his cathedra. And you can hear Tertullian in ancient times writing about the thrones or cathedrae of the apostles. Come now, you who would indulge a better curiosity, if you would apply it to the business of your salvation, run over the apostolic churches in which the very thrones, cathedrae, of the apostles are still preeminent in their places, in which their own authentic writings are read, uttering the voice and representing the face of each of them severally. Voluntas, will, wish, choice, or desire. From this we get the English word voluntary. That's something that is done, given, or acted of one's own free will, uncoerced. And of free will, St. Justin Martyr in the 2nd century AD said, "But neither do we affirm that it is by fate that men do what they do, or suffer what they suffer, but that each man by free choice acts rightly or sins. And this is the nature of all that is made, to be capable of vice or virtue. So here he's placing the locus of vice or virtue, good or evil, in the will. Tempus, meaning time, and in tempore, meaning in time. Time, period, age, or season. In tempore is the ablative ending, indicating when something is happening. As the writer of Ecclesiastes says, all things have their season, and in their times all things pass under heaven. So we get English words like temporary, meaning only for a certain time, or temporal, meaning relating to worldly rather than spiritual affairs, or in other words, something that is subject to time, from this Latin word tempus, for time. Pulvis, meaning dust. From this we get the English word pulverize, which is to reduce to dust or fine particles, turning something into dust or grinding it down to dust. And it's used euphemistically to mean to utterly crush and defeat something. You pulverize it, you beat it down to dust. Remember, man, that you are dust, and to dust you will return. That's from Genesis 3. And a concilium is a council. In concilio is ablative, in council. And we know about councils from Scripture. Acts 15 tells about the first church council. And St. Augustine says, what the custom of the church has always held, what this argument has failed to prove false, and what a plenary council has confirmed, this we follow. And from this we get the term conciliar, which is relating to or proceeding from a council, especially an ecclesiastical one. So conciliar documents, those would be church documents that were produced by a church council, such as the Vatican councils. Novit, that's he, she, or it knows. That's the perfect tense, so has known. And St. Thomas Aquinas wrote something very interesting about the knowledge of God, the way in which God knows things. Quote, and although contingent things become actual successively, nevertheless, God knows contingent things not successively, as they are in their own being, as we do, but simultaneously. So what he's saying here is that contingent means like a consequence. If one thing happens, it depends on something else to happen. So contingent things happen in sequence. This happened, which allowed this to happen, which allowed this to happen. Those are contingent things. And we know them successively because we're in tempore, we're in time. But God is not in time, so he knows them all simultaneously, not successively. He continues on. His glance is carried from eternity over all things as they are in their presentness. Hence it is manifest that contingent things are infallibly known by God, since they are subject to the divine sight in their presentness. Yet they are future contingent things in relation to their own causes. And that's important because when we speak of God knowing the future, it's not as if he can see into the future. He is not in time, so he sees them already in the present. Everything is present to God all the time. Past, present, and future, as we experience it, that's all now in the vision of God. And the first grammar lesson is covering the parts of speech. Donatus asks these questions. How many parts of speech are there? Partes orationis quot sunt? He answers, octo, 8. There are 8 parts of speech. Quae? What? Nomen, pronomen, verbum, adverbium, participium, conjuncto, prepositio, interjecto. What are they? Noun, pronoun, verb, adverb, participle, conjunction, preposition, interjection. And Lilly's grammar says the parts of speech are 8. Noun, pronoun, verb, participle, those 4 are declined. Adverb, conjunction, preposition, interjection, undeclined. 4 are declined, 4 undeclined. To decline a word means you change the ending to change the meaning or indicate its use. And these 4 parts of speech, the noun, pronoun, verb, and participle, those are all declined, depending on how they're used. So, like we learned about ablative for where something's happening. You change the ending to indicate that I'm not talking about the idea time, I'm talking about in time. I'm not talking about the name of a council, I'm talking about in the council, where something happened. So those are examples of declining words. And then adverbs, conjunctions, prepositions, and interjections are undeclined. And St. Isidore gives a little bit of insight into how these parts of speech came to be divided. Thus, he says, Aristotle first proposed 2 parts of speech, noun and verb. Then Donatus defined 8, as we read. But all parts revert back to these 2 principal ones, that is, the noun and the verb, which signify the person and the act. The others are ancillary and derive their origin from these 2. So, the older idea from Aristotle was that there were basically just 2 kinds of speech, the noun and the verb, and those relate to the person and the act. And everything else we say is some form of that. But as they got more specific over time, they broke it down further into 8 parts of speech. But Isidore is saying that even though there are 8 parts of speech, they all fundamentally relate to the noun and the verb. For the pronoun is taken from the noun, whose function it assumes, as in an orator, and then he, orator ille. So we use a pronoun just to replace a noun and make it less annoying to say over and over and over. So instead of saying someone's name every sentence, you can just say he or she. But it's still basically a noun. It means a noun. The adverb is taken from the noun, as in a learned one, learnedly, doctus, docte. The participle is taken from the noun and the verb, as in I read, a reading one. A participial form is reading rather than I read. The conjunction and preposition, however, and the interjection occur in connection with these other parts. For this reason, some people define 5 parts of speech, because these latter 3 are superfluous.